1 Peter 5:7 tells me to do something I'm wondering if any of us actually do. It tells me to cast all my anxieties on God. And it tells me to do that because He actually cares for me. This book is written because Dane Ortland has a hunch that a lot of us struggle with that last part. His book is called Gentle and Lowly, and he says that the way that we imagine God feels about us inevitably impacts whether or not we want to come to Him. And that's what's prompted him to write this book. He says this book is written for the discouraged, the frustrated, the weary, the disenchanted, the cynical, the empty. Those of us who find ourselves thinking, oh, how could I mess up that bad again? It's for that increasing suspicion that God's patience with us is wearing thin. For those of us who know that God loves us, but suspect that we've deeply disappointed Him. Who've told others of the love of Christ, yet wonder if, as for us, He harbours mild resentment. It's written, in other words, for normal Christians. Ortland's aim is to help us leave behind any natural, fallen inclination we might have of God as distant or grumpy, but instead to see that He is for us. As Ortland puts it, the posture most natural to Him, it's not a pointed finger, but open arms. This kind of turnaround in our thinking isn't easy. It's a lifelong task. Ortland writes, it takes a lot of sermons and a lot of suffering to believe that God's deepest heart is merciful and gracious, slow to anger. The book's title comes from Jesus' own words about Himself in Matthew 11, where He makes that familiar invitation. Come to me, all who labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, says Jesus. Learn from me. Why? For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. So what Ortland's trying to do is to unpack those words of Jesus so they really sink in. So they don't just roll off like water off a duck's back. So we start to actually internalise Jesus as a friend, someone to enjoy, who we don't have to impress, who can actually take our burdens and not just add a few more. So I've got a few quotes for you from the book. God is saying, there is no termination date on my commitment to you. You can't get rid of my grace to you. You can't outrun my mercy. And also, He is not cautious in His tenderness toward you. He multiplies mercies matched to your every need, and there is nothing He would rather do. And lastly, God's forgiving, redeeming, restoring touch reaches down into the darkest crevices of our souls, those places where we are most ashamed, most defeated. And more than this, those crevices of sin are themselves the places where Christ loves us the most. We cannot sin our way out of His tender care. Each chapter of the book is saturated with biblical references. There are also a lot of quotes from Puritan writers from the 1600s. But don't let that put you off. Ortland is sure to explain everything again clearly in modern day English. This is a book full of rich reflections. I think you'll get the most benefit if you're able to slow down and take time to mull over what you've read. On the day that the book was released last year, Ortland tweeted this: "It took me 7 years to write, but it will take me a lifetime to believe. And it will require nothing less than an eternity to wade into. Ever deeper, never plumbing, new discoveries at every turn." This book doesn't ask us to do anything more than simply wonder at Jesus' love for us and to come to Him. We're reminded in its pages that the problem isn't that God lacks mercy, it's that we're often reluctant to receive it. But what a rich reward when we do come to Him. Rest for our souls, a warm welcome, someone trustworthy and compassionate on whom to cast our anxieties.